I want to introduce Ioana Tanase. She is an accessibility program manager at Microsoft, the author of 2 books, Life Version 2 and Get That Job, and a shoemaker. I mean, really, she makes custom shoes, which is awesome and cool, and I can't wait to share the link with everyone. And Ioana and I met through our mutual friend, so a shout out to Dona. And Ioana, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, lovely to be here. I have to admit, I'm absolutely blushing because I am an introvert and I am bad about speaking about myself. So internally, I'm cringing right now, but thank you for the wonderful intro.
Well, hopefully this isn't going to put you too much out, but talk about yourself. You know, tell us a bit about your background, who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. Born in Romania, lived there for most of my life and adult life. And 4 years ago, moved to London because I needed something new and exciting. And I've always had this dream of experiencing life abroad. So being in London since then, throughout my career, I've been with Microsoft. So I started 11 years ago in the company, fresh out of university. And I have joked that I've been brainwashed and here I am in terms of, drinking our Kool-Aid. Partially true, but well, I'm definitely biased. I love the company. And I've started as I was like jack of all trades within the recruitment department. And obviously I didn't know much after university, but I was very keen to learn. So my first couple of roles were very much focused on understanding how recruitment and HR in general work in a company. And it was such a brilliant introduction to understanding things. And I've been in global talent acquisition for 11 years. And then in October last year, I actually moved into accessibility, and I'm a program manager, which has been sort of a dream coming true for me in many, many ways. I have a disability. I'm dyslexic. For most of my life, I didn't know I was dyslexic. I found out a couple of years ago. And yeah, very much still on the learning journey in terms of accessibility and enjoying every bit of it.
That's awesome. Not that you have a disability, but that you are figuring it out and that it's helping. And I think Dona is also dyslexic, which is interesting. So that you have that in common. So I mean, because you're coming from a different country than I'm in. How did college and university work for you?
Yeah, so you're taking me a long time back now. It's like I have to move the dust bunnies. It was interesting because in high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when it came to university. So I love technology. I knew how to code, but there was this stigma that if you're going into what we call polytechnics, which is the computer science degree, it's mostly male-dominated environment and it's not really friendly to women or girls. So right or wrong, the stigma was there. And that really impacted my decision. And I didn't go into computer science. And I went into a business major. So my uni was actually vice versa. It was mostly women that were actually going to that particular major, and I studied commerce, and then I did a master's in business. So 5 years of deep business education, and at the time I was a little bit lost in terms of, is this useful? What am I going to do in terms of the practical element after I finish university? And Microsoft happened in the sense of, I might need to stop because the door rang and there's going to be a lot of noise. Bear with me 1 second and we can continue.
Okay. It's okay.
It's the beauty of working from home.
That's right.
So as I entered uni, I wasn't quite sure where it would lead me because business administration was great and it was a lot of general knowledge, but I wasn't sure how I'm going to apply it. And I remember finishing university and thinking to myself, my priority list was always don't starve, because I had to support myself. And, I come from a family that my mom was a teacher and she was raising me on her own. So let's say our income was limited and I always knew I have to support myself. The second priority was, if you're lucky, do something that you like. And then if you're really lucky, then have an impact. And Microsoft was one of those companies I always admired. I grew up with the products. It was my first interaction with the computer through Microsoft software. What you learn in school was always Microsoft. So it was definitely that kind of setup of like, oh my God, Microsoft is the computer world, as I grew up. And I had such a deep admiration for the company. And I applied. And the first time around, I didn't get a job because it was a 6 months role. Sorry, it was a part-time role for 6 months. And I knew that I wasn't able to support myself if I would take it. And then they had a second role that I applied for, and the position got canceled as I was going for the interviews. So I was like, man, come on. And then the third time around, it seemed to be lucky, and I actually got the role. And I remember that I got the offer and I was told yes. And the first thing outside of the Microsoft building was calling my mom and saying, Mom, I got the job at Microsoft. And then I think I called my whole family. But it was a real life changer for, somebody who grew up with the technology, a deep admiration for the company, incredible exposure to fantastic people for the interview process. It definitely was life changing.
That's awesome. So as you went through this journey, whether, as you were trying to decide what you wanted to do, or the challenges with, picking a degree and going through a degree and getting into a career, what's something that you've seen we should reconsider within how we do that process, right? How do we do that, or the work we do in our field? What's something you've witnessed along your journey that we should reconsider?
I think having programs and guidance for people who are in their, I call it high school, or that's what we call it in my country, in high school, and starting conversation with young adults at that age is incredibly important. Because one thing that I was missing, and mind you, this is a long time ago, fair enough, things might have changed, but one thing I was missing was guidance in terms of what is available out there, right? What are the type of careers you can go to? How can you experience what a software developer does, a person in sales does, a doctor, and having conversations where you are exposed to people in those fields that not only tell you about what's available today, but what is their kind of crystal ball of what is going to be available tomorrow. Because chances are a lot of the jobs that by the time you're in high school and then finish university, a lot of the jobs that you will have available didn't exist when you made that choice. So how can you have at least an image of what is possible and the type of skills that you would need for it, and also trying to marry that passion with skills and things that make you happy when you're going to the workforce? Because I do believe if we're lucky enough to be happy in our work, is such a massive positive impact in our life, because we do spend a lot of time working, and that happiness and that sense of fulfillment and impact contribute towards the value of our life.
Oh, that's so true. Even here in the United States, it's a challenge, right? Getting youth to know or think large, think big about what their future might be, and hopefully line some things up in a way. But you're right, that advice is so critical. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it also depends on your family, right? Because what I was seeing for a lot of my colleagues, myself, depending on what your parents were doing, that would be the advice that you're getting in terms of your career. And sometimes that might match, and you might have similar passions and skills, but sometimes it might not match. And I remember that I was told, we had a doctor in the family, and I was told, you have to be a doctor, you have to apply to medical school. And I'm like, I faint when I see blood. I don't think I would be the right doctor.
Right. That's so true. So what's next for you? What's your future look like, either, in the near future, or even what are your big plans?
Yeah. Well, I just moved to accessibility in October, and very much as I'm thinking about, let's say, short-term is being a sponge in terms of information. And I'm looking to learn more about assistive technology, which is something that is incredibly interesting to me at the moment, and wanting to develop my knowledge in that area. And being more grounded in the disability community, because this is something that has allowed me to be myself, and being more grounded in that community offers me the space to actually embrace who I am fully. And representation matters, I would say, in a nutshell. As I'm looking at the long-term plans, that's a provocative question, because I know I want to be in accessibility. I know that this is the sort of impact I want to have for the rest of my life, because there is so much to be done when it comes to disability, and when it comes to the impact that technology has in bridging the disability divide. But I don't know the shape and form that will take. I love Microsoft. As I said, I clearly have a bias for the company. I wish to be here, all things good, for the future as well. And then on the side of that, I want to grow my shoe business as my side hustle. And one of the projects that I'm working on for this year is how can I make footwear or shoewear, whatever you want to call it, that is more accessible to people with disability. So that's the other goal for this year, in terms of understanding what is a perfect shoe when it comes to different disabilities and different type of needs we might have under footwear area.
Wow, that's really cool. And I never thought about that. And that is something that would be really impactful.
Well, even myself, like if I'm looking at shoewear, and I can blab about this for ages, so just stop me. But I have knee issues. And for example, certain shoes accelerate the pain that I might have in my knees. So it's, even if you don't have a disability in terms of a motor skill, let's say disability, we're all impacted by those aches and pains throughout our lifetime. So how can we have more comfortable footwear that isn't boring, is the question that I'm trying to solve for.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you solve it and the amazing things that you're going to do in the future. And it's been so great getting to know you today.
Thank you. And it was lovely to speak with you as well.